Here it is, guys. It's the new canner from Oktober. This is the SL1. I'm so excited to show you this. Today on the MASH, we're gonna go over tips, tricks. We're gonna dial in our seams and make sure we're to spec. We're gonna show you what it means to can your homebrew here on the MASH. Let's go get it, come on. Welcome to the MASH, the show that takes you behind the scenes of the beer revolution. We'll be teaching you about different types of beer, showing you around some of our favorite breweries, and bringing you tips and tricks to brew better at home. Sit back, pop your favorite beer, and enjoy. Here's the machine up close and personal. I thought you guys want to be able to check out all the details of the hardware. They did a great job thinking this product through. Let me show you the rollers. So you seam, first seam here, and then this rotates this way, and you do your second seam here. Now I got a couple tips and tricks for you when you're doing a seamer. Now this will be good for the SL1. Some of these tips will actually apply to any canner. So first of all, tip number one, you gotta go slow on your seam. You don't want to rush it or else you might not get a good seal. So when we lock it into place on the SL1, it's a two-process, single-arm seam system. And so for the first process, we're going to go out to the right. That's going to initiate the first seam and actuate that first seaming roller. We want to remember to do this for 2 seconds. You don't want to go faster than that. If you go faster than that, you might compromise that seam. And when we bring it back, we're going to turn it to this side towards me, to the left. We're going to push it in until we start feeling it actuate that second seam roller. And that one we want to do for 2 seconds also. You can't go too fast. So take your time, do your seams right. It'll pay off in the end. The other tip is really important. They send this in the box. Thanks guys, this is really cool. You want to make sure that you're keeping all your parts greased that are supposed to be greased. Now I'm not going to go over every part with you in this video, but make sure if you get one of these that you check the user manual and you grease it up right. That's going to make a big difference for the quality of how this machine works. Finally, what you really need is to break down that seam. We'll show you how to use this seam breaker. I'll show you also how to do it more traditionally with a file. Let's take a quick look at this YouTube video. It's going to show you the body hook and the cover hook in detail, and I think that's going to help you understand how the seam actually looks when you were to break it down.
The first operation roll moves in. As the first operation roll moves in, the curl is kick-started and tucked up under the flange. The second operation roll moves in to tighten and complete the seam, thus forming a hermetic seal.
Now the reason that we care about the seam is that that's what's going to create a hygienic seal between your beer inside that can and the air and contaminants outside of the can. So with a good seal, your beer is going to stay fresher longer and you're going to avoid any kind of contamination or oxidation from the air outside. Alright, now we want to talk about the first and second seam operation where we discuss checking the rollers and making sure they're working the way we expect. To do this, we take 2 cans. We're going to use 1 can and just do the first seam operation and a second can and just do the second seam operation. From there, we take a pair of calipers and we double check the width of those seams to see that they are in spec. We want to check for the spec of a 76 thousandths of an inch on the first seam operation and 47 thousandths of an inch on the second seam operation. You've got a little bit of wiggle room by about 1/1000th on those, but the closer you can get to spec, the better of a seal and the better opportunity you'll have to have success with your cans. Now that we have a couple cans under our belt, we want to double check these seams. Now these are looking pretty good to me, but there's a way to check that they're actually in spec. I'll show you that right now. You can use kind of this more traditional file, and we can actually file off the top. Or Oktober sells this little can breaker, and it's basically a can opener, but they've done a little modifying to it to make it work with the cans. So for the file method, we're just going to actually file this down
3 hours later.
Okay, so that's the hard way. Not impossible, but man, that took a lot of work. Here is the opener method. It's just like opening a can, except the edge cuts on the edge of the top of the can. So we're just going to cut it just like a can. Now that takes this off. And then we have our edge again here. Clip that. And we pull our seam. See that? Great. The final detail that I want to discuss with you while we're talking about inspection of your can seams is body hook and cover hook. Now this is why we removed that lid off of these cans. We're looking for the speck on the body hook here on the edge where you see a seam left over. And we're going to measure that with our calipers in 3 to 4 locations to ensure that it's not only consistent, but it hits a speck of 55 to 75 thousandths of an inch. Next, we want to take a look at the cover hook, which is what I removed off of the lid when we had cut that lid off. Now this cover hook should come in at 53 to 65 thousandths of an inch, and again, we want to measure it in 3 to 4 locations to make sure that it comes in at the right spec all the way consistently around the rim. Well, I hope you guys had fun today, and I hope you learned something. I really enjoyed sharing some tips and tricks with you and showing you around the new canning machine. Next time here on The Mash, we're going to talk about how to fill your cans with beer, avoid oxidation, and we'll talk a little bit more about putting cans in your homebrew system. I know it's not right for everyone. It was right for me, but we'll talk about why it might or might not be for you. Till then, take care, keep brewing, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.